So guys, this is the next section. This is still part of the change agent chapter from Rogers, but this is about understanding the different types of diffusion that would be taking place within an organization, what are the characteristics of it, and how do we deal with it as a change agent. So one of the most celebrated, especially with regard to Rogers' diffusion models, is the agricultural extension model. This is something, happily, that I know quite a bit about because I'm part of this model. Over 135 plus years in the making, and Diffusion of Innovations is an old book, so it's even longer than this. American cultural value of grassroots, organizing emphasis on practical, cooperative of the state and federal, state, and local levels. It's also about research-based knowledge. So in agriculture, there's a lot of things that are, maybe successful someplace, like my grandmother used to do this, or, if it's a farmer, for generations we've done this way, and it's worked just fine. But the whole idea behind the extension model was to spread research-based knowledge on agriculture and helping farmers and the community understand what is known in a very predictable and repeatable way. So things like cover crops and planting the same crop for years. There was a lot of research into how to rotate crops, and the book talks a lot about the different types of fertilizer and weed sprays and things like that. And farmers needed to understand what was known and research versus what was just word of mouth. So these extension agents were a very important part of this. Boundary spanning with specialists and agents. So the whole idea of this, the agricultural extension model, is a centralized model because the information that we're disseminating is coming from like that research university that's sponsoring it. So in Michigan, that's Michigan State. And so the ideas and the research comes out of Michigan State. It goes out to the extension agents, which some of them go directly into the community. Some of them go through, the next extension, which are, in our case, the master gardeners. We attend regular training sessions. We have to do, I think it's 15 hours of training every year on top of the original, gosh, what was it? It was probably 50 hours. It was, like a regular college class. And then there are Master Gardener colleges and things like that where Michigan State comes out, they bring all of their specialists, and they teach us things that are, again, research-based, new information in areas that we're interested in, because we get to sign up for whatever it is we want to hear about. And then we take that information out to our community. So all of us, the Master Gardener program is a volunteer program, and we're required to do at least 20 hours worth of volunteer work a year. Most Master Gardeners do way more than that. Your job is to help people understand these very solid research-based models for proper gardening and agriculture and things like that. So it's been a very successful program. People really enjoy it because it, generally speaking, if you enjoy gardening, you really enjoy the Master Gardener program, because when you're finished with it, you wonder how you got anything to grow. All the things that you have to think about and consider that make gardening and that agriculture element predictable and reliable. And it also, I find myself when I talk about it, especially to people like my girlfriends or my sisters or something like that, I speak at a level that is much different than them. So when you have this peer-to-peer communication and that, I find myself lecturing, and I try very hard to take it down and, okay, this is what you need to do. And what I find is that once someone really is interested in learning about how they can do things successfully, repeatably, they become much more interested in what I'm saying. And otherwise, I might as well not even speak, because some gardeners, they just like to do it their own way. They have absolutely zero interest in whether it's going to work or not, whether they're going to lose the plant or not. It doesn't matter. And so until people are open, right, and they are seeking this knowledge, it is compatible with how they are looking at what they're doing, that complexity piece goes away, right? Because a big part of gardening and agriculture has to do with the soil, is making sure that the soil is healthy and amending the soil, using compost and things like that. And until somebody's ready to understand that, you might as well just not be speaking, because nobody is taking it in. They don't want the knowledge, they don't want the innovation, and the diffusion doesn't take place. But one thing I've noticed, because like one of my sisters, she loves gardens, but she doesn't like gardening. She's not a gardener. And she has no interest in even feeding plants, let alone composting. But this year, she wanted to build a garden that she saw at a friend's house, and she was so excited about it. And suddenly, she wanted to talk to me. She wanted to hear all about composting. And she's at home right now chopping up old yucky vegetables that are in her refrigerator to go feed her worms, to bring out, the nutrients in the soil, so that when she plants her new garden, everything will be successful. So they also found that as they were working, the farmer's wife was very interested in information on home economics and things that she was in charge of doing. And so they expanded the model to bring in a specialist that would come with the agent that was a home economics agent. So you'll find that as you see the success of of innovation, and you see how positive it is in one area, you say, well, gosh, you should be bringing ideas out for me so I can get better at what I'm doing. So it was a very successful model, still is. It is the way Michigan State communicates out to the community on, how to be successful in gardening and agriculture. So a very, very good model. Another way to look at things is, how can we use more of a decentralized approach to knowledge and understanding and gaining, new ways of doing things. So when we look at something like Khan Academy, and I don't know if you guys have used Khan Academy, but it's really a fabulous education tool. So several years ago, I started back to school in a PhD program. I'm at Wayne State in the GET program. So this is a special program for professionals, people who have some sort of passion in something. Mine is technology, as you probably can tell, and how to help them, look at it from a research perspective, an academic perspective. And as I went through this program, there were a couple of prerequisites, because I needed some, background information in math, and I had to take a couple of classes that my professor at the time said, oh no, they're very easy, you'll have no problem at all. Yeah, they're easy if your background is engineering, if you have a bachelor's in engineering, which I'm sure you guys all do, and it would have been easy for you, but it wasn't easy for me. And so there were many times where I needed help on a subject that I had no background on, and I turned to Khan Academy to help me. And it's amazing how much information is out there, and how easy it is, not easy, but easier to learn in this very decentralized way. So he's got all kinds of lessons out there, and there's all kinds of like commentary and stuff on the lesson, and links to other areas where you can learn something more about, this Calc 3 type, formula or whatever it was. And his thinking is that he wants to decentralize education. So right now, some places, obviously we know, are not open to having people be educated. But Khan Academy, as long as you have access to a computer and the internet, you can get any kind of education that you need. And, Sal Khan, who started this by trying to help, I think it was one of his nieces, learn some sort of, again, I think it was math, because a lot of his stuff is math oriented. He put these little, videos together for her so she could learn them, and realized that what he was doing was something that other people could benefit from as well. And again, that's all about that grassroots innovation. You know, how can we get more people with new ideas into our, you know, our space to share that knowledge and to learn more, and not just be kind of sequestered with our own kind of thinking. So that decentralized approach gives us more access to more thinking. So then in the book, so in Rogers, this table appears, and this is the centralized versus decentralized diffusion, and what are the benefits, what are the characteristics of it, and how does it work? And you know, obviously there are benefits to centralized diffusion. This is more of an authority-based model where, you know, someone or some few number of people have decided we're going to do this, and it's pushed out to the rest of the community. The other side of it is a wide sharing of power and control among the members of the diffusion system, and it's client controlled by local systems. So, you know, in a big company like Ford, of course, this is going to sound really scary. Okay, we can't have all these people bringing in all this code that could be virused and stuff like that. So it's more, so you don't want to necessarily think about it that way. You just want to think about it as a more open approach to innovation and diffusion. That everyone might be able to contribute in some way. It might have to be vetted. You might have to do, you know, some precautions, but you have to set rules around it or something. But the idea is that it is problem oriented. So here's something we need to solve, and how can we get people in the boat with us to help solve it, find new ways of doing things, and solve problems. So I am a big fan of decentralized diffusion, but I also can very much appreciate the benefits of centralized as well, because the whole idea behind it is if you have a way or something that's researched and proven, it is something that you want people, you know, to be able to take advantage of. But on the other hand, you definitely don't want to lock out good ideas. So you've got to be able to balance it based on, you know, maybe the problem that you're trying to solve, or the resources that you have, or maybe the speed at which you want to do something. So these are just different approaches to things. All have their, you know, benefits and, you know, risks associated with them, but we need to know that there are different ways of solving problems. And that's it.